You're listening to the HIH Podcast with Hiko and Garytt. Originally, we were supposed to broadcast live from Comic-Con, but that didn't really work out. So we figured we'd do a quick wrap-up right after the con.
Yes, we're still recovering from the 4-day Geek Fest that is Comic-Con
Mine wasn't
San Diego.
4 days, thank goodness.
No, you had 2 days. I had 3 full days, actually.
Wow. So how was your con?
My con was good. I started out, the longest line I waited in was 3 hours for the X-Files 20th anniversary panel. It was kind of worth it. I did give up at the last minute, but luckily the line started moving and we got in just as the panel was starting, just as the actors were being introduced and brought out. It was really cool. Chris Carter and all the producers and writers, Vince Gilligan being one of them.
Right.
They, all these, they're now veterans, all these writers are now having success on other TV shows. Some of the guys who did 24, Vince Gilligan, and I'm forgetting who else.
3 hours.
I waited 3 hours in line. I made some friends, though. Comic-Con is a place where you can, accept candy from strangers while you're waiting in line. I met this really cool Deadpool fan who was sharing his Tootsie Pops with everyone in line. I made some new friends. That's what we're supposed to do at Comic-Con.
I mean, there are weirder things to wait in line for. I don't know if you've heard of the Rain Room at the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Oh.
It's this exhibit where you walk into this dark room and it's raining, and you walk through the rain and there are sensors above you so that the rain doesn't fall on you. So you basically get to walk through the rain.
Holy crap.
Right? All right, so it sounds like something you'd like to go see.
Yeah.
So I was in New York, and the wait was 3 hours and 25 minutes in 95-degree, humid sunlight, middle of New York City.
Oh.
And one of the workers at the Museum of Modern Art comes up to us, and she says, or you can just view the exhibit and not participate. So I go, oh, well, how long's the viewing line? Thinking that it's probably half. It's still going to be an hour and a half. She's like, oh, you can go in right now. I'm like, wait, what? You mean I get to stand 5 feet away from this falling rain and watching people walk through the rain, and I can just be out of there in 10 minutes as opposed to waiting 3.5 hours? She's like, yeah. So we ended up doing that. But yeah, the lines and the crowds, it feels like every year it gets more and more crowded.
Well, it's interesting, too, because this was the first Comic-Con post-Twilight.
Right.
So
which a lot of people at Comic-Con blame. They put the blame on Twilight for creating this monster.
Well, and also Twilight also created a huge trend in, YA novels being turned into film adaptations, these big budget kind of blockbusters with the Hunger Games and the new Divergent. I don't know if you heard about that with Shailene Woodley. Coming out sometime next year. It's a new dystopian kind of YA trilogy that's going to come out. They were on the cover, I think, on Entertainment Weekly a few weeks ago. But yeah, there's going to be a whole slew of them, I think.
So sick of slews of movies. Seems like every new movie that comes out, it's your. That's why I've refused to see the Hunger Games. I have no interest in the Hunger Games.
I know you don't.
Have you seen the Hunger Games? Are you a fan?
I have the DVD.
Okay. So someone was telling me, you have to see the Hunger Games. I'm like, wait. What you're saying is that I have to see this movie that I had no interest in to begin with. I just have no interest in. I have to see it, but not only do I have to see that, I have to commit myself to a series of films. I'm not getting one cool movie. It's not like Independence Day. It's not like getting one cool movie.
But it's not like you're committing to a 20-episode season of a TV show that people are telling you to watch. It's a 2-hour movie you can watch in 1 year or so. You can take a weekend to watch it. You're not going to do a binge viewing
but
of
usually
anything.
when people are saying you should watch this TV show, it's because it's a great TV show.
Yeah.
And the commitment is well worth it. The Hunger Games, I don't think the reward is really worth it.
Jennifer Lawrence, it's worth it.
Thank you, Joe. Well, she is worth it. And to see Elizabeth Banks and Woody Harrelson kind of ham it up in the movie. I finished the second book earlier this year. I got to start.
And you're reading the books.
I am. Well, I have a thing. If there's a hugely popular book made into a movie, once in a while I'll try to read the book before the movie comes out. I did that with Jurassic Park back when I was in elementary school. Yeah. I wanted to read the book first. Oh no, that was actually with The Lost World. Twilight I didn't dare touch because that to me just ruined the whole vampire lore in Hollywood
or created
in pop culture. It just it tainted vampires in pop culture for me. So because I'm a student of Buffy. So
what was the highlight of Comic-Con for you?
The highlight? Well, I have to say, after waiting in line for 3 hours at the X-Files, it was kind of underwhelming.
You mean waiting in line for 3 hours?
Yeah.
The result of sitting in an uncomfortable chair watching a bunch of people sit at a black table and
reminisce about episodes that they hardly remember. And getting, and then the worst part of goes across all the panels at Comic-Con. The worst part, I'm sure you can agree, is when the Q&A start.
Oh,
and
good
these
God.
random geeks from out of nowhere come up to the podium, come up to the mic, and ask out of left field questions and sometimes redundant and repetitive questions. And you just roll your eyes through all of them.
Excuse me, Agent Mulder. My name's David Duchovny. Excuse me, Agent Mulder. Yeah, I mean those Q&A sessions can be really, really rough. But were you in the room when they announced the Batman Superman movie?
No, I was not. I did more of the TV show panels this year. The few that I did attend, because there was actually a lot more stuff happening outside the convention center this year.
That's what we said. We got there and we said, God, maybe it's so crowded because people are realizing you can come down to San Diego for Comic-Con, not buy a badge, and you could have a hell of a weekend.
It's San Diego's Mardi Gras now because so many people are flooding the streets downtown, and you can tell it's
they closed down certain streets.
They closed down certain streets, and you can tell there's a bigger influx of people, or people who didn't buy badges because no one's wearing the badges,
right? Which
means everyone's just enjoying what's on the outside of the.
Well, it's really
center.
just become like. It's like a mecca for branded content. Yeah. It's a mecca for marketing whatever you're trying to sell. And the businesses down there, I can't imagine how much money they make when, Sci-Fi says, I want to rent out your entire restaurant for the weekend.
Yeah.
Or Samsung Galaxy. I swear, Comic-Con should have just been brought to you by Samsung Galaxy S4 because, charging stations all over the place, just Samsung, and their lounge was just superb.
Yes, you can order drinks on their tablets and give your order to the bartenders. And
you can make buttons.
Give it to you. Yep, I made one.
You made one?
I did.
Cool.
At the Veronica Mars party, actually. They had a party there Friday night at the Samsung Galaxy.
Oh, they did?
Celebrating the new movie adaptation.
Oh.
Yeah, I got to see the cast, got to geek out properly and take a few pictures of some of the actors. So... I was excited for that. I regrettably didn't get down there early enough on Friday morning for the Hall H Veronica Mars presentation, but I was fine with that. I knew I was going to the party.
You knew it was going to hit the internet 5 seconds after anything was announced?
Yeah, the special
I feel like
5-minute trailer.
That's part of the
preview.
thing that gets me about Hall H in general. Ugh. You're waiting in line.
I would not.
For what really? It's going to hit the internet seconds after it's shown in there.
People were camped out the night before.
It's unbelievable.
I left the grounds around 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night. Oh no, it was much later. I was walking back to my car, and people were in line at 11 p.m. at night for whatever was going on the next morning. And I would not wish the line for Hall H on my worst enemy, because
it's hot, it's sweaty, it's confined.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's not hot and humid like your New York line to the museum, but there was a nice cool breeze while I was waiting for the X-Files panel. It was tolerable. They have tents set up for everyone, so you're not constantly in the sun.
You would think at this point, with the line that goes into the Hall H thing, you would think they would broadcast the Hall H on these screens while you're waiting in line. So at least if you're waiting in line, you could watch what's going on inside.
They do have something. They started maybe last year. They rebroadcast on those jumbotrons inside Hall H everything that happened during the day later that night. So starting at 8 o'clock, you can go in and watch everything that had taken place there.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Well, if you're smart enough to avoid those Hall H lines, you can just go at the end of the day and watch it repeat.
Or you could read a write-up that's like 2 paragraphs long and get everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Superman Batman?
It's interesting. My first thought is, who the hell's going to play Batman now that Christian Bale is, he's been vocal about not really reprising.
It's a different world. He doesn't belong in Zack Snyder's universe.
DC is obviously setting themselves up for Justice League, the inevitable mashup of superheroes that will come out in who knows when, summer 20 ?
My biggest concern about Batman joining the Superman world is that when we see Batman, the way we've always seen Batman, it's been very it's been very intimate. We're not used to a computer generated Batman. All right, we're used to computer generated Superman. He's got to fly in the air. We're used to that. So are we going to have to?
A human being,
right? We're used to computer generated Spider-Man, computer generated Iron Man. Like we go in there and we accept the fact that we're going to see these 3D images and be like, okay, that's Iron Man. But Batman, I'm not sure that I'm ready to see CGI Superman fight CGI Batman.
Well, even they just announced that Batman will have a part in the Man of Steel sequel. Doesn't mean the whole movie's going to be him, collaborating with Batman. I think it's going to be...
I'm sorry, but when you show that logo... you can't go back and then have like a tease with Batman.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a full-fledged, collaboration, a duo.
Well, I think because Man of Steel was a little bit of a disappointment
for certain people. Yeah.
No, I mean financially.
Really?
A little bit.
It's
made lots of money, but they
so
still see it as a bit. It's not a $1 billion Dark Knight.
Well, come on.
Well, that's. But think about it.
Yeah.
If you got a Superman movie coming out next, why not throw Batman in there?
Well, Batman Begins, which was the first in the Nolan trilogy,
Yeah, but that was different. This had Nolan's name attached to it as a producer. It's the same sort of world, the same sort of tone, and you've got Superman, a well-loved character. Batman Begins was the last movie we had seen was Batman and Robin, just completely destroyed by Joel Schumacher.
Well, it's the burden of an origin story movie, so who knows?
That's a whole other conversation. Enough of these origin stories. I'm just so sick and
reboots.
Tired.
Jesus. But anyway, all this stuff. Did you get to enjoy whatever was outside the convention center? Did you get to partake in any fun experiences?
I thought Lou and Mickey's, which is a bar right across the street from the convention center, had a cool gig going. They had all sorts of electronics you could use. You could check your email. One guy who used the computer before me left his Twitter logged in. So. I sent some funny tweets
at least
from
you
his
didn't hack
account.
into it. You just
it was there.
It was there.
It's his mistake.
Did you happen to see the Ender's Game fan experience? The huge tent they set up out there.
Okay, so Joe and I walked by the Ender's Game thing, and we're like, "Oh, we want to go see that." So we walked by, and there's not really much of a line, but there's enough of a line that we were like, "Oh, are we going to go in or are we not?" And one of the girls, of course, this Comic-Con's is flooded with promotional girls. If you're remotely attractive and look good in a tight T-shirt, you can be
scantily clad and just hand out postcards for hours and hours on end.
You've got a weekend gig.
Yeah.
So they said that it was like props from the movie.
Yeah.
And so I turned to Joe and I said, props and sets from a movie that hasn't come out yet? No thanks.
This line that you talk of. See, when you have a press badge like us, I don't know if you knew this. You could have gone up to one of the reps and said, flash your badge and said, I'd like to cover and do something.
I didn't know that.
That's how I got in easily. No lines. And they I went in there, I think, on Saturday, and they give you a little dog tag, and then they personalize like a security clearance ID with your picture on it. So it's like your own badge.
Yeah, but someone told me that, and they were like, "What's your first name?" And he's like, "No." "What's your last name?" "Can you just put the letter P?" "What's your last name and your email?" And it's like, oh, Jesus, I don't want to be on that mailing list. And speaking of mailing lists, thank God the thousands of emails per day that come in.
I mean, God bless the publicists, though. I don't know how they do it because they have to push and pimp and do everything they can to, please their clients.
They must draft. Everything's got to be drafted weeks in advance.
Yeah, of course.
Drafted, and then they know exactly when to send out.
It's a mental and physical preparation for everyone involved.
One thing that I noticed, and this was a huge change, and now topical again, we've discussed Zach Braff and Kickstarter, but there were so many people just downtown handing out Kickstarter cards. Did you notice that? I
did not, actually.
People just saying, support our Kickstarter, support our film, we made a sci-fi movie, go see our movie. And I found it amazing because it's smart, but, it is sort of, I feel like it's misguided, but hey, if you can go down to San Diego and you make $1,000 total, it's still better than nothing.
Well, yeah, Comic-Con is it's also all about the independent artists. When you do go on the convention floor, there's the artist alley. There's I always take a look there to see what's there because there's some cool artwork.
You always take a look there on your way to the bathroom?
No, I I purposefully go and pick up some business cards and see what cool artists maybe
always
are based
some cool
in LA.
stuff.
You can do a little follow up.
It's always so expensive too.
Well, there was a cool T-shirt I was going to get for a friend as a birthday gift later this year, and it was only $20. And there's cool stuff. I was disappointed in Dark Horse Comics. Actually, they usually have an awesome booth, or I don't know what you call the booth. It's not like a booth. They take up like a whole portion of the floor. And since being a Buffy fan, I always go there to check up on the Buffy memorabilia and like all the cool products out. They had nothing. They just had maybe a couple of the newest issues in the season 8 and season 9 comics. Everything else was like Game of Thrones.
Hey,
no surprise.
Go
with
the hot hand.
And I don't even know. It just wasn't Buffy, so I kind of just walked past it and was kind of disappointed in that. Sorry, Dark Horse. Anything on the convention floor?
Before we go, I'll get to the convention floor, but just Joe sent me a link today regarding Kickstarter, and guess who's in the Kickstarter game now?
Uh-oh.
Guess what's happened, everybody? Spike fucking Lee. Spike Lee, that's right. The guy who has floor seats to the New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. The guy who can afford that needs your money so he can make his film. Come on. Something's wrong with the world. Something's wrong here. How do you feel about that, quickly? I mean...
Well, he has Old Boy coming out. Is it for a new movie?
Yeah, it's for a new movie.
Oh.
Spike Lee! Come on. Well, that's. I mean, honestly, that is, you're one step below having a guy like Steven Spielberg say, "Hi, everybody, I need money for my new film." Like,
well, with Spike Lee, he's not a really. Let's be honest, he's not a hugely commercially viable director who can make these huge movies.
So you're saying he's not a very good director? I agree. I agree.
Well, no, it's he hasn't been making stuff consistently over the past decade. So
because
major studio. I'm sure he's not friendly to the major studios. So I'm sure he has to go on his own.
So he's an asshole.
So it's no surprise that he's going on his own and he's doing this crowdsource funding tactic.
No, you know what I think's happened is that a lot of these filmmakers, a guy like Spike Lee, who decided, you know what, I'm going to leave the industry for as long as I want. I can always go back. He decides to go back, and people are like, Spike, no one's looking for you anymore.
Yeah.
There's younger, more imaginative guys who will do what the studios want them to do for cheaper.
Who have less controversial luggage on their shoulders.
Right. And he's now resentful, and he wants to make his movie that no one else will fund.
There you go.
That annoys me. But, anyways. The exhibition floor, Joe, did you see anything on the exhibition floor that really...
I was just really upset because the DeLorean Lego set that I set my heart on to go buy...
Oh, he was talking about this the entire drive down.
...was sold out by the time I got there.
Oh.
And it's okay. It goes on sale, eventually on Lego.com in August 1st, those who want to know. But once that was, sold out, I just...
He was done.
Are you a Lego fan, Joe?
I am.
Who isn't a Lego fan?
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on the Lego movie? I haven't read or seen anything.
You haven't seen the trailer?
I actually read that script a couple years ago.
Yeah.
One of a director I was working for was attached originally for it, and I remember reading it. I was kind of excited, and seeing the trailer has got me I'm so into it.
Well, it's the guys who made Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
They're funny. Okay. They're
funny people.
They're funny directors, and the Morgan Freeman's in it. And
the trailer's fantastic.
I'm excited for it. It's the Lego movie. I mean, come on, it's the biggest.
And they got the licensing for all the characters. So you got Batman.
I love the little Lego people too.
Right.
I would just collect a little, several of those little Lego figures. I wouldn't build stuff. I just like having the little different characters.
I used to have a ping pong. We used to have an old ping pong table because we had a ping pong table in my basement, and then the old one was dedicated to my my Legos. Oh. And I would create cities. I'm telling you, I'd fill this entire thing with houses and the space shuttle. Remember the space shuttle? Oh man, that was a hard set.
I remember Christmas of '87. Lego Airport. My dad had built it for me, and it was on the coffee table in our living room.
He built it for you?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I woke up, and I started playing with the Lego airplane with little people inside, and little Lego control tower. It was awesome.
Oh my God, I used to just design houses, and I remember the first time I was able to design a 2-floor house.
See, and
it had stairs and everything.
And I think
I was like, Mom, get downstairs!
I think Lego kind of inspired me to briefly have these aspirations to be an architect when I was little. I remember, it'd be cool to just build buildings and like all these cool sets and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but
until you actually have to measure stuff.
Obviously, I'm not an architect right now, and I'm on a podcast talking about entertainment. So.
Right. The exhibition floor. I have a friend who writes for comic books. His graphic novel Hybrid Bastards. He was doing a book signing there, so I saw him. He was very excited. It's like his third Comic-Con being down there. There wasn't anything on the floor that really drew me in. Yeah,
I spent maybe an hour in there on one day. Yeah, and I knew I was going to be out and about. But yeah, going back outside, I don't know if you went behind the convention center along the pier.
I missed that. I saw pictures afterwards.
There was the Assassin's Creed Jackdaw pirate ship set outside there. And Schick Hydro Razors had a cross-promotional thing with them. If you buy the new Hydro 5 Razor coming out later this year, you can unlock special footage or scenes in the game when it comes out for the holiday season.
I was trying to get Joe to shave his beard. They were giving away shaves.
You can't tell now because it's 2 days later. But my cheeks and face were smooth as a baby's body.
I wanted him to do it, and
you get a pirate with a razor just shaving you on a pirate ship. How cool is that?
That would have been great. I told him. I said, Joe, this is going to be great content. You need to do this, and he was like, no.
And actually, we'll be putting pictures up from the pirate ship on hotterinhollywood.com.
I did get a cool selfie with a zombie from The Walking Dead on the exhibition floor. That was fun. I feel like most of the fun on the exhibition floor is seeing the costumes. Yeah. And one of my favorite costumes I saw a photo of, I didn't see it in person, but was The Dark Knight Retired.
Yes,
and it was a retired
right
Batman,
outside the Hilton,
and he was wearing PJ pants.
He's there. He's been there for the past 3 years now.
Well, I didn't see him.
It's great. It's a great idea to just sit there.
Well, now that I know it's 3 years old, it's not that great.
Well, yeah. See, we'll catch up.
Yeah. Guy needs to come up with something new.
Let's talk about, because I know you guys saw it first, and then I went the day after. They did there was a mobile real 3D theater set up outside in a parking lot.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, a mobile 3D theater set up outside the convention center to show it was like a 7-minute preview of the new Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity with George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. I was blown away. That was 3D awesome. And you know Cuarón is going to do this like 17-minute long single take in the movie. And
also, if you don't know, the scene that you see is like the space station sort of exploding.
Yeah. And
actually, from what I hear, the studio made him add sound to that scene.
Okay.
For the trailer, but in the film, it's completely silent. You just hear Sandra Bullock's breathing and her heartbeat. Because
I think
is there sound in space?
I think I don't think there is.
That's a big thing in 2001 Space Odyssey, how quiet,
Right.
Because that's the realistic, scientific.
Right. It was just amazing. I'm just like, oh my god, you could just Gravity didn't have to get into Hall H. They didn't have to get into a panel. They just had this mobile trailer in a parking lot. Yeah. Here's our movie, and a lot of people left there going, holy shit, this is
Although I think Sandra Bullock did show up for a panel, maybe in Hall H. Maybe it was during the Warner Brothers presentation. But yeah, it's and that 7-minute clip, it was all in one take. And I read later on in the Entertainment Weekly issue of Comic-Con, he used like the special camera rigs with the actors. The actors weren't on wires. They hardly used any wiring because that kind of with the access of everything, the axis kind of makes it awkward to shoot. So he used this innovative technology to get the free-floating feel while up there in space. It looks awesome. I can't wait for October to see it. Yeah. And then there was the zombie walk out on 5th Street. I don't know if you saw that on Saturday.
What was this?
They do, it's a bunch of people dressed up as zombies and they just walk up like a couple of blocks. I think we saw
like a Justice for Trayvon walk. I think we saw a different walk.
Yeah.
And then, of course, all those religious nuts. Can we talk about them?
Yeah.
Can we talk about them?
Well, yeah. A little bit, because they don't deserve any airtime.
It's fascinating.
I mean, it's funny.
It's fascinating. Also, how they plan, because different when you go to different events, you have these, the you're going to hell, like save yourself, recognize God, or you're going to burn
let Jesus
people.
save you.
Those people, yes. But usually they're like in one group. At Comic-Con, it's like they have
strategically
they're
placed.
like it's like the Revolutionary War, and they're George Washington, and they're like, we are going to divide. And we are going to conquer, and they just spread out, and they start, everywhere you go. It's like the second you escape one, you run into the axis of another.
I feel they've been in the same positions. They're right outside the convention center. Then they're by the Hall H line, by the Hilton.
Oh yeah.
And then, but it's funny. Sometimes, what's great about the Comic-Con attendees? Some of them are smart and witty enough to like react to that with signs of their own. And there was a guy who just a makeshift cardboard sign, and he held it up, and it says, "Satan loves you."
There was another kid that said, what was it, Neil to Zod?
Neil to Zod, whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating. There was one thing that I noticed, and on the exhibition floor, I'm trying to come up with. How do you explain, and like if you peel back the surface of Comic-Con, like what is it? And I saw, let me get this actor's name.
Getting philosophical and deep.
Right? That's the way I have to look at Comic-Con.
You really got to get analytical with it.
Yeah. Walter Emmanuel Jones. Do you recognize that name?
I do not.
He played the Black Power Ranger in the original Power Rangers.
Okay.
So he's on the exhibition floor, and he's standing at this little booth. It's like, oh, meet the Black Ranger. And there's a sign that says $10 for an autograph, $20 for a photo op. Yeah. And there's this one guy, like, standing there, like, trying to get his attention. But Walter is like texting on his phone, like, one second. I'm like, dude, there's a guy willing to probably pay you $20 for your photo. And what it makes me think is that there are two kinds of people. Well, there are the people at Comic-Con who are desperately clinging to whatever fame that they once were able to achieve. Yeah. Okay? And then you have the fanboys who are desperately clinging to this feeling that they had as either young kids, or it feels like all of Comic-Con is a desperate hold, a desperate
it's a convergence. It's just this convergence of like super nostalgic people who can't let go of certain things.
Right.
I'm guilty of that here and there with certain things, but I can totally see that.
Yeah, and it fascinated me in that respect. And God, there was. No, you go ahead.
Have you seen Morgan Spurlock's Comic-Con documentary? Because I wonder. I haven't seen it either. Because I wonder if he touches upon that. Like, I know it's supposed to be pretty insightful and not just hey, look at these dorks dressed up in costumes kind of documentary. That's something we might want to take a look at before next year's festivities. Yeah,
it fascinated me, and of course, that there are certain people when you go to the second floor. Is it the second floor where all the autograph signings happen?
Yeah, right outside Ballroom 20.
I was in episode 22 of the original Battlestar Galactica.
Well, I saw one of the actors from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Nicholas Brendan, who was in that movie we talked about last time, Big Gay Love, with my friend Ringo Lay, the filmmaker. He was there at his own booth, and I think it was $20 for an autograph and $30 for a picture.
It's unbelievable.
And he had like 2 or 3 people at his table, but he was very nice about it, and like very, very interactive and talkative with the fans. And
so he earned his $30.
Yeah, I actually went up to him to say hello and just to say, hey, I'm a friend.
How much did that cost?
Yeah, right. That was free. I don't pay for that. But he was very nice and he was appreciative, and I think he was stationed there for 4 hours.
They must be appreciative. I mean, if Walter Emmanuel Jones, who played the Black Ranger, is getting any kind of attention at this thing, at this giant convention, it's got to be flattering and makes you feel good, and you make it a few bucks.
And it takes a little swallowing of one's pride to just
there's
show
nothing.
up.
Nothing more depressing than seeing, especially some of these people, they don't have, PR handlers or publicists.
Yeah.
They don't have someone handling the money.
Nicholas Brendan doesn't.
So you see that awkward moment where it's like, I don't know, $30 for something, and you give them 2 20s. No, and then they reach into their pocket to make change, and you're like, oh no, and your heart just sinks that this person's making change. But let's see. The other things that were going on, Sharknado 2 had a presence.
Yeah, of course there's going to be a sequel. Can I just tell you, I saw like a total of 7 minutes of clips on YouTube from that movie.
So you did it wrong again.
I'm sorry. Remember, I have no cable.
Right, okay, go ahead.
I'm suffering. I suffer.
Tell me about
I
the
put
clips.
it upon myself. The one clip that was just so laughable and outrageous is where there's a shark flying in the air.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. The shark comes plummeting down to the earth.
This is the end of the movie, by the way.
Oh, it is. Okay, and Ian Ziering has a chainsaw. And as the shark is falling on him, he chainsaws through the shark.
Okay, first off, you're not even telling me.
Well, the shark swallows him, and he chainsaws himself out. There.
Joe, does that not sound awesome?
It is.
I can't wait to watch it.
I wish. Let me tell you something.
Joe hasn't watched it either.
I may or may not be in possession of a copy of Sharknado, and I may or may not be wanting to watch it tonight, so I'm really excited.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. If any of these studios had the balls to put like $150 million into a movie where a shark swallows your lead man and he chainsaws out of the belly of said shark, I would be there.
And
you know how much money that would make?
And pulls out a helpless victim in there.
Yes!
But kudos to sci-fi, because they've created this brand for themselves to produce these outlandish, crazy B movies. It's the new era of B movies and sci-fi.
They've been doing it for years,
but now it's just
they just finally found
they're gaining a lot of traction.
Well, because they found actors who had some semblance of fame. I mean,
Tara Reid's in it. Enough said.
I mean, yeah.
God. And that. Oof.
I'm surprised they were able to find sharks that were willing to work with Tara Reid.
Hey now.
I think I'm like the 100th person to make that joke in the past 2 weeks.
Tara Reid is a human being as well.
No, but it's just a lot of fun.
It is.
You just I've never fast forwarded faster through commercials.
Yeah.
Which of course
what was some of the other titles that they had? Croczilla, is that coming out or that's already been out? I don't know.
Well, I know Sharknado 2 is going to take place in Manhattan.
Of course.
So, and you get to, if you go on Twitter, they might use your title.
Yeah, subtitle.
I got a T-shirt. I got a Sharknado T-shirt.
Nice.
Very happy about it.
I think I saw a picture of you holding the Bitten surfboard.
Oh, yeah. I saw the Sharknado people the second we arrived. I was so stoked. So stoked.
I was impressed by their presence.
Really?
Little known fact, Sharknado has actually had less viewers than Chupacabra versus the Alamo, which has about 100,000 more viewers opening night. But they did manage to do a second weekend with Sharknado, which is why it became such a big hit, and because Twitter now is enabled films like Sharknado to just kind of become a pop culture phenomenon.
Well, I mean, also people are like, oh, I'm not going to watch this Sharknado, even though there was a little buzz, and then everybody's like, no, you need to see this movie. It is so, oh my god, there's like a hurricane going on like in LA, and so it's pouring rain all over the place, okay? Yet it cuts to a scene where they're standing. It's clearly bright and sunny out. There's no water on the ground, and they're like staring in the air, and then there's this giant tornado that picks up the oh man, it's so good.
Well, see, that's where Snakes on a Plane went wrong back in 2006. See, if Sci-Fi maybe had tried to snatch that up, New Line Cinema wouldn't have had a bomb on their hands.
There was another thing I heard someone pass by, and this is something I've felt for a long time, but I've never actually heard it. I've never overheard it before.
Yeah.
He said that he just goes, science is the new rock and roll, and it's so true.
Well, yeah, because geeks and nerds are the new rock stars too.
Well, it's not just that. If you think about it, 20, 30 years ago when records dropped, or like 40, today's the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' first album being pressed in the United States. 50 years, that like albums were with rock stars, Stones. Yeah. Now it's, when's the next iPhone coming out? When's the next Samsung Galaxy? It's all about these technological advances.
What's the new Tesla car coming out?
What's the new Tesla car?
Hyperlooping.
The new Kindle.
When is the Justice League movie going to come out? What's going to be next? What's going to be bigger than 3D? Like that's what people are getting so excited.
Well, that's the Entertainment Weekly handout that they were giving, the special Comic-Con issue.
Right.
There was a preface in there about how geek culture has become mainstream. So where does it go from here? Where does it go? And the geek purists, they're like
the geeks will always find something.
They will.
Listen, I'm a 27-year-old professional wrestling fan. There is a presence at Comic-Con for pro wrestling. In fact, I saw someone dressed as like CM Punk. We thought that was pretty hilarious. But it's still not. It's not as mainstream as Batman and Superman. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I get more stigma for watching pro wrestling than someone reading a Superman comic. Geeks will always find something that's underground.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still playing Magic the Gathering. Ooh.
Well, whenever that is made into a movie, then I'm sure there'll be an uproar from the geeks. If they...
Magic the Gathering.
I don't even know what that is about. But
it's a card game. You know what it is.
Is it role-playing? And
I don't think so. It was a card game that was popular for me. I think it was like 1997. I was in 5th grade.
Oh,
I never got into it. I was totally into Beanie Babies.
Oh!
Because that's where all the chicks loved Beanie Babies. Okay. So, all the girls were like hanging out with the guys with the Beanie Babies, not the guys with the magic cards. So, I bought the Beanie Babies.
So, okay, were there any panels that you did get into or try to get into?
I didn't bother going to any panels. I didn't want to wait in that line. I didn't want to sit in those warm rooms just to hear people speak.
Yeah, they've gotten a little anticlimactic.
I'm jaded.
For us, it's all about what's outside and the lounges and parties.
Right.
It's all about the parties.
I'm jaded. I can't do these panels anymore.
Comic-Con is also like Sundance. It's all about the parties.
And plus, as someone who aspires to be someone on those panels, like
us both, yeah,
right. It's weird for me to sit in the audience and. Sorry, I got to clear my throat. Getting over a little bit of a sickness. That's why That's why I wasn't at Comic-Con the whole time. Part of it, I was sick for like 3 days last week. As someone who wants to be on those panels, to sit there, it hurts.
Well, however, I have to say this year was the first time I saw, from what I've heard and what I saw, the people on the panel, they started using the panels and doing creative ways to introduce some of the guests and really amp it up and just make it a little more fun instead of just sitting there watching people talking microphones.
Right.
At the X-Files 20th anniversary panel, they did this whole montage of the greatest clips from the show because it ran throughout its 9 seasons, and then they did the old intro, the old theme song. And then at the end of it, the lights went out in the theater in Ballroom 20. And then you see 2 beams of flashlights come out, and it's Mulder and Scully. It's David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, and they strike their pose just like in the original.
Oh, man.
And I geeked out, and everyone
Someone's having a nerdgasm.
Hashtag nerdgasm. And I unabashedly... hooted and hollered and got up and just applauded and shrieked.
My biggest thing about the panels and
there was another thing too. I think it was at a Marvel showcase or maybe they were talking about Thor 2. The lights went out again, and you hear this booming voice, and it's the voice of Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, right? And he comes out in full gear and full costume as Loki and addresses the audience.
I think they all should come in costume.
Well, yeah.
I mean...
But that's great. If you can YouTube it, just YouTube Loki at Comic-Con 2013. And it was pretty funny.
My biggest thing about the panels, too, is like, especially with certain shows, they bring too many of the actors, I feel. So what happens
is that... some of them get neglected.
And... So then they go out of their way to make sure they're not neglected, and you're just like, no, I really don't care what you have to say, or like they have like the associate producer on the panel, and you're like, please,
give us the showrunner,
please, like.
Well, the other show I did go see, the panel got in. There was no line for it. I mean, I just walked right in. Was The Following? I don't know if did you watch that?
I watched the first 3 episodes, and it got way too campy. For me, it was too much. I watched, I think, first 3 episodes, maybe 4, and then after the 4th episode, I was like, I'm fine not watching this. Like, it didn't make me have to come back for more.
Yeah.
I know you love Kevin Williamson.
I know, I do. I watch Vampire Diaries. I love the Scream movies. But yeah, The Following, I will check it out. They kind of, alluded to the fact, no spoilers here, that Joe Carroll, the serial killer, he apparently survived at the end of season 1, and he'll be back in some quote-unquote, some way, shape, or form for season 2, but there'll be a whole shitload of characters and a new story, so we'll see.
If the actor doesn't have something lined up, I'm sure you'll see him a lot more than if he did.
Well, James Purefoy, maybe he doesn't, so...
There was a good display for The Blacklist, which I've seen the pilot for.
Oh, I went to that. It was a hologram James Spader.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. It's really a hologram. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
because the pilot's very good.
Yeah.
I think the Blacklist pilot was 5 times better than The Fallen.
Yeah. Well, even though NBC is struggling, I have to give them this. Their presence at Comic-Con is really impressive because all the exhibits and showcases that they have, especially with Blacklist, is really cool. They kind of overtake that corner outside of the convention center. Grimm, which I follow and love, they set up one of the sets from the show. They set up, you can go in there and take a picture with the potions and stuff. And then I didn't go into the Dracula exhibit. Yeah, they had one up for that. I don't know how I feel about that.
I've seen the trailer, and
me too.
It looks intriguing. The problem is when you see a premise like that, and you see that it's on a network, one of the major 4, you're already skeptical.
Well, yeah, because then you watch the pilot, and it has that network moment where you roll your eyes and like, like they give away too much exposition, or a character does something really cliched or expected,
or there's just a really bad subplot,
or they have
that's usually what happens for me.
Or you feel like the story or the dialogue or just the creativity gets compromised just because it's on a network, and they have to lay it out and spell it out for you.
Which the one show this season that didn't fall, and there were times where you felt like it was falling into that trap, but very soon after they would climb out.
Let's say it at the same time. Hannibal.
Yeah. Hannibal, and especially, did you watch the entire season?
Not the season. I saw the pilot, but I was impressed.
Watch the season, and the way the season ends is fantastic. They actually reuse one of the opera songs from the movie Hannibal. Yeah. A beautiful, beautiful arrangement, and just a really cool image. The way it's shot is great too.
Well, I guess till next year.
So this was your, 5th?
This is my 7th Comic-Con. This is your 4th?
4th, yeah.
Yeah, so who knows? Next year, I'm sure it'll be just as
next year, someone said it's a big year because...
It's the year before, the
Star Wars.
The nerd end of the world.
Oh, yeah.
2015. You got Star Wars, Avengers 2.
Independence Day 2. Jurassic Park 4.
All those things are going to be announced or shown at Comic-Con 2014.
Yeah.
Right.
So next year's going to kind of be
Star Wars is going to be nuts.
Expect the apocalypse. There, you heard it from Joe right here. Expect more chaos, more crowds, but more fun. It's still fun.
It is exhausting, though.
It's exhausting. I need a break from Comic-Con every year.
You know what it is? It's like going to Disneyland. You're waiting in line, but you don't get that ride
in terms of lines,
recharge your adrenaline.
In terms of lines, Comic-Con is the worst theme park ever.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's it. We're still recovering. Thanks for listening to us. You can follow Garytt on Twitter at Garytt, Garytt. You can follow me, Hiko, at The First Echo, hotterinhollywood.com, or on Twitter, hotterinhwood.com. Thanks again. Good night.
Bye.